I have a second channel, cubecompmtdx. Hey everybody, now that I've gotten a chance to test this thing out, it's funny, the previous owner had this thing set to WVGA. You may notice it in my last video when I was going through the settings. I didn't notice it on video, but when I went outside to do a second test video, I noticed, I was like, yeah, this thing's not even in HD. So I set up to 1080p HQ. It's a 30 frames per second mode, and this thing actually does pretty freaking nice for both audio and video. The audio is a little, I think, over distorted. This thing is very sensitive to audio. It can hear stuff far away, which is nice for thunderstorms, but when you have close strikes and the accompanying loud thunder, yeah, it may not sound the best. It's really going to be a good experiment, I must say. So, I've already taken the battery out of it because we're getting ready to do some camera surgery here. I need to get inside here to see what kind of lens assembly this thing has. I know it's fixed focus, obviously, but what I'm interested to see is if I'm finally done with it. I'm interested to see if this lens assembly here will fit. This is out of that sports camera I had gotten last summer. It turned out to be a utter piece of garbage, but it did actually have a nice lens built into it. Actually, I was able to throw this onto the Kodak ZI6, and it made for a nice wide angle, or actually a fisheye view. So a lot of these fixed focus lenses, they just thread in, yeah, like so. And that's how they focus them from the factory too. But not all of these lenses are exactly alike. For example, here's a couple more factory lenses out of various cameras. This is a factory lens that goes into a Kodak ZI6, and this is a factory lens that goes into a DXG 567V. You may tell how there's differences in these two. It's because the sensors in these two cameras are vastly different. You can see why this one was a direct fit into the ZI6. It's because the size of the glass area is like the same exact size. Okay, enough of that. Time to go ahead and pull out my screwdriver that I use for working on small devices like this and see what we can do here. So I noticed right away that this plastic here is kind of separated. Maybe this thing got dropped. It didn't affect it. It didn't actually harm it because the thing works fine. But you can tell something's happened. I think it probably just got separated a little bit. So yeah, that's coming out. That's coming right out. There's nothing I can't stand more than having to deal with those little covers for the SD card. You know, my WeatherCase cameras, I just rip them out. Now, my other cameras is a little different story. Like my Sanyo Active cameras, yeah, the little SD card cover's still there. And as I mentioned in the previous video, feel kind of bad doing the mods to this thing because it's in such good looking condition. You know, my WeatherCase cameras, they're not really for looks. They're just they're there to do a specific job. And it's definitely windy outside all of a sudden. So what I'm trying to see here is how this separates. I think I figured it out. Yeah, that actually popped back in place when I pulled this loose a little bit. So apparently this whole thing just I don't know, maybe this whole side comes off. Thinking that could possibly be the case. I'm going to take an additional screw here. Okay, one thing's for certain is that lanyard's coming off of there. Sometimes that can be a little tricky to get off, especially if whoever installed it pulled it very tight. Okay, that's off of there now, out of the way. So what I gotta do is I gotta open up every little access door. See if there's any hidden screws. Sometimes they like to hide screws behind these little, behind these little rubber pieces. They they hide them behind those. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so actually the front seems to lift up on this thing. Yeah, if it wasn't blatantly obvious already, this is my first time cracking open one of these products. One of these cameras. Because I have to get in there to do a few specific mods. So I'm wondering if there's any hidden screws behind the sticker. You know, they could very well have some screws behind this, and they put the sticker on to hide them, of course. Okay. Maybe not. So yeah, it looks like in this camera they made efficient use of every spot they could, given how thin this thing is. Only thing is getting to the mic. Actually, oh, take that back. The mic wires. Well, let me get this off here a little better so you can see better. There might be. Oh, there. That's all it is. Get that out of the way. Oh shoot, this thing's easy to get into. Okay, so right here is where the microphone leads hook up, and the microphone just takes a little trip around through here and out this little hole here. And one thing I'll probably be doing is well, I gotta think about this for a moment, because I gotta get to that mic. Or what I could do is, since I'm going to have an external mic on this, I could just snip these wires somewhere in here and reroute them out to the top near the SD card. Because the camera is going to be sitting in the WeatherCase like this, with the cover over here. Plan to put the microphone on the cover. It's either that. You know, it's like either that, or I could, if I have a 3.5mm jack under somewhere, I could put that on. I don't know. I'm just thinking out of the top of my head right now. I will say, if I didn't say already, this here does confirm my suspicion. I could just drill right through this plastic here to access the battery area for doing the 18650 mod. Okay, so what I need to do is I need to get better access to that lens. This right here will probably be gone very soon. I just want to make sure it's not. Okay, so actually, to get this off here, I see a screw there. Obviously, guys, this is not scripted, so I apologize if my conversation just randomly drifts all over the place from one subject to the next. So I think what I was saying before was I need to get this off here so that way, yeah, all perfect. That way I can access the lens. So actually, no, that screw does not have to come out. Apparently not. Alright, so let me go ahead and tighten that back up. What's good about this device is it seems to actually, yeah, that screw did have to come out in order for this to pop loose. What I was going to say though is what's nice here is this camera does not rely on this to hold the CMOS sensor in place. Some cameras like this design, and of course the CMOS sensor is on its own daughter board. Sometimes they'll use the front of the camera to support it. Okay, so it looks like here from my observations, I'm thinking this may be compatible. Now I have to actually pull this lens off first. And probably the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to break this thread lock to actually get it loose. Okay, so to break this thread lock, you gotta carefully twist this left to loosen it. And I'm not really liking what just happened there. Matter of fact, I'm going to try to go and test this thing, just to be sure something crazy didn't just happen. Carefully insert the battery up against these terminals here. Start it up. Oh yeah, it's fine. Okay, just want to make sure it was okay. Like I say, you have to gently break loose that thread lock. Try this again, be as gentle as possible. There. And the lens will just thread right out. And I hope it's the same freaking thread size. It might not be. In that case, well, either way, I'd have to refocus the whole freaking thing. And it looks like it might not be the same thread size. Not thread size, but the same lens size. Yeah, it looks like it might be smaller. Dadgummit. No? Yeah, it looks like it. Well, dang. Because that would definitely not fit. Okay, so there's just look inside the sensor for those who are curious. So it looks like we can. What to do is have to move on to Plan B. So while I'm at it, I'm curious to see if I have any other lenses that would actually fit this thing and offer a little bit wider angle view. Now this lens, it does look to be the same size. As a lens that was in my DXG 5B6V. Okay, so I'm going to try the lens off the DXG 5B6V. Just out of curiosity to see how it would behave. Okay, let's see if they're the same size. Oh no, they're not even the same size. Well, dang. That sucks. So it looks like I'm stuck with the factory lens. Hopefully it'll work good for my needs here. That's a real bummer. Okay, so Plan B is going to be attaching a wide-angle lens like one of those little ones you get for a smartphone. What I could do is I could glue it onto the front of the existing lens, and more often than not, I would have to refocus the original lens in the camera to get it back into focus. I had to do it with the Kodak ZI-8. I also had to do it with the ZI-6 a while back, and that used to be a WeatherCase camera. So yeah, so it's not. It wasn't bad that I actually broke loose the original thread lock on this, because more likely than not, I would have had to have refocused it anyway. So yeah. So while I'm in here, curious to see how difficult it would be to get at the factory mic in this camera. So it looks like I'm going to have to actually go into this thing a little further. Let me take that one screw back out that I had recently put back in. Yeah, it's all of a sudden got windy outside. It wouldn't. I don't recall being this windy earlier. That wind is really kicking. And that's one of the things of spring. So it looks like in this camera, in order to get to mic, this whole circuit board is going to come out. Okay, so there is the alternative, because this board is this board isn't, well, it had to be easy with it. I was going to say that the alternative would have been to attack this little side here and pull the original mic out, which I really did not want to do. But as delicate as these little cameras are, sometimes it's the option I must take. Because the microphone is up inside there. So what I could do is I could snip these wires right here and snake them up to the top. I might just do exactly that. And I'll just leave the original microphone in its current place, because I had plenty of other microphones I could utilize instead. Yeah, I think I'm going to do just that. Let me go ahead and try to gently get this thing back into place. Okay, so what I'm going to do is as far as the microphone goes, what I'm going to do is I'm going to abandon the original mic, leave it in place inside the camera. Or, let me see, let me think. I may attack this side here and take it out of there. Either way. Okay, so now I need to make an access hole for the outgoing microphone wires. What I'm going to look at first, though, is how long are the wires that's already on this door. Not very long, but I think it's probably good enough. Yeah, I can't rule out completely redoing this thing. Because right here I have this jack, 3.5mm jack. I may just wire this up to where be like WeatherCase camera number 1, where it just has a 3.5mm jack. Well, the camera comes with one, and I just have a little bitty extension cable going into here, and the microphone on the outside. So that may be the other option that I might go with, because I already have the wires here to solder up to this jack, and I can mount this jack right on the side of the device, like something like this. Okay, well, the battery had went dead in my camera, so you did miss out on a little bit of stuff, and nothing too spectacular. Just me drilling a hole here. No, excuse me, a hole over here and a hole down here. This hole is going to be for where these wires will exit through this side to meet up with a 3.5mm jack. And this hole here is going to be where the power wires run through from the 18.650 holder. Go inside the camera to hook up to the fuse and to the terminals. So what I was working on most recently is gutting the original mic out of this camera to try to get this loose wire out of here, because we don't want that to be touch up against stuff, if you know what I mean. Yeah, if I destroy the factory microphone on this thing, oh, big deal. I'm sure it's probably not as good as a single mic from a Sony ECM DS70P. So, okay, I've successfully gutted this thing of its microphone. You can see the crater where it used to go. Yeah, I might fill that in with some glue or something, or I might leave it as is. I told you guys, this thing's not going to look as spiffy and pretty as it did when I first got it. By the time I get done with the modifications. But okay, so we're ready to go ahead and put the cover back on. And I'll just run this wire up through the hole. And carefully snap this thing back together. It's already looking vastly different. I did have to had to take this off in order to be able to fit a wide angle lens on the front, which I have to grab the wide angle lens. I have to find it for one thing. It's around here somewhere, but it's going on the front of this, get glued into place, and I have to focus this lens back into sync with that wide angle adapter on the front of it. So essentially, you can see right here is the access hole for the power cables going from the 18650 holder. And here is the wire coming through for the microphone. Not too bad. Not too bad at all. So now I need to go ahead and reattach some screws. Okay, I just got this thing back together, and I want to see if it survived my modifications thus far. I have not attached the 3.5mm jack yet, but I just want to make sure this thing powers up just fine. And it does. The focus might be a little bit off by now, but actually it doesn't look... Yeah, it could be off just a little bit, but that's okay because I'm going to be doing the wide angle lens attachment here shortly. So, yeah, no big deal there. So it does work. That's something I want to have to check once in a while when doing these kind of mods. Make sure I don't kill the thing. Okay, but now I'm going to focus on the microphone jack and the 18650 mod. Since I'm going to have the soldering iron heated up, I may as well go ahead and do them both while I'm at it. So I'll start out with the mic mod. So what I got to do now is I got to strip some wire. That way I can solder this up to the 3.5mm jack. So I got these stripped down. Also going to go ahead and get rid of some existing wires here. Last time I used this jack, I bridged between the left and right channels, stereo channels. Not audio, not stereo, but audio channels. Having two channels of stereo, by the way, if you didn't know that, that's what that means. And that's what I was on right there. You get the trace, all the traces of old wire off of there. Yeah, so before I actually do the 18650 mod, I'm going to test this thing out one more time just to make sure that the audio works and stuff, and then I'll continue on with that. So go ahead and get this attached. So the black wire will go up here closest to the jack. It's right there, and I guess I'm going to stick the red wire over here to interface with one of the channels in the microphone, because the microphone I'm going to use is one of those fake Sony ECM DS70Ps, and since this device is just a it normally uses one microphone, so it'll actually utilize one of the two mics in the stereo mic. Pre-treat those wires with some flux. I'm going to add just a little bit of solder to the channel connector. Don't know which channel it is, whether it's left or right, but I'm going to add some solder to it. That one there is fine, as it is. Okay, let the fun and games begin. Okay, that one's on there. Yeah, that's nice and toasty. It doesn't take long to get the little thing hot. Use the famous one of those pliers as something to try to hold this thing in place where I can work with it. Try to stop from this moving around as it pleases. So that way I can hopefully maneuver this little wire into place where it belongs. Okay, So it's on there now. Okay, so next I'm going to go ahead and put a little drop of glue to start to secure this jack into place on the camera. I probably should have done this earlier. Would have made things a little bit easier to work with as far as keeping the jack secure in one spot. Okay, so we'll have it like that for now. That way I can plug in a microphone and test this out just to see how it works. And once I confirm that it's working okay, I'll go ahead and add some additional glue to cover up these wires and to secure them in place. And then I will actually be focusing on doing the 18650 mod. Okay, I just tested it out and let me say it sounds absolutely amazing. Really impressed. So this is the microphone I'm talking about. It's actually a knockoff of the Sony ECM DS70P. I've been buying these things on eBay for years now. And what it's doing is it's using one of the audio channels. I don't know which one it's using, but it's using one of them. And it sounded perfect. No issues at all from what I could tell. Can't wait to see how it will sound in a thunderstorm. But yeah, the audio jack works fantastic. So I'm going to go ahead and actually finish up the gluing. So I'm going to cover up all the wiring. Also glue around the sides here to make sure this thing is good and secure. What's nice is this black hot glue is a lot more resistant to the hot environment inside the WeatherCase. The clear glue, not so much. It's junk. But the black stuff does great. It also doesn't look too bad either. Not bad. So essentially, inside the WeatherCase, well, what I mean to say is, like WeatherCase number 1, I'm going to use one of these 6-inch extender cables, attach the end of the cable to the door of the WeatherCase, or I might put it on I might actually attach the mic jack to the back of the WeatherCase. Not sure. I'll have to decide on that. But see that, and this microphone going in the exterior of the WeatherCase to capture the audio outside, just like WeatherCase number 1 does. So for those who have been watching my videos for years, here and on cubecompmtdx, may be familiar with that. Just thinking, in the month of May, WeatherCase number 1 will officially be 8 years old, because I made it in 2011. Okay, so that's kind of the idea of how things are going to look. Just like that right there. And I had mentioned previously that I was going to do the 18650 mod right after doing this, but I'm going to switch gears a little bit. I'm going to instead focus on the wide-angle lens and get that installed and get this thing focused while it's still daylight outside. And then I'll worry about the 18650 mod, because the little batteries in this thing does have plenty of charge on it. It should get me through all the stuff I need to go ahead and do. So this is the lens I'm going to mount on this thing. It's going to go right on the front of this lens here, just like it would on a smartphone or whatever. It would just attach right to the front. And let's see, there's a little piece right here that could be used to thread this on. But I'm thinking I'm going to attach it directly to the thing. Yeah, that would actually be better. The thing is, the lens on this camera is so freaking small. Yeah, that's just it. It's so small. Okay, so a little change of plans on how I'm going to mount this wide angle lens on here. What I'm going to actually do is I'm reutilizing the front piece that I took off earlier. Instead, I took the little shiny piece in the glass out of it. And as long as it sits flat, I can attach this little thread, what this lens here used to thread into. I can attach that right to the front of the camera. I just want to see if this here pops on and off easy or not. Because the thing is, I have to be able to get access to the lens to turn it, to focus it into place. Okay, everybody, now I've got the audio and the wide angle lens taken care of. It's now time to focus on 18650 mounting the camera. So I got my 18650 holder here. This is a 2x parallel. Two 18650s running parallel on this. And also went and picked up some fuses from the auto parts store. And they're sitting around here somewhere. Oh, here they are. 3 amp ATC fuses. I had more of a preference for the, I think they're called ATM mini blade fuses, but they didn't have them in stock at the, at least in a pack like this, where you had like 5 to a pack. So I had to go with these instead, which they work just fine as well. That's what I've been running in most of my other 18650 modded cameras. This is a basic form of short circuit protection. If something in the camera dead shorts, it should blow the fuse instead of just leaving the battery shorted. So I'm going to start out by first mounting the cells. I'm going to mount them with the positive facing downward. So that way I can loop the wires around like this and through this hole. It'd be a smaller trip the wires would have to take. So let me see if the glue gun is heated up enough where I can squirt out some glue. And it does appear that it is. So I'm going to start out by mounting the battery holder on the side. And for now, this will be a more basic form of mounting. It's I'll be following up with additional glue later on. Stuff dries pretty quick. So once I finalize things, I'll be adding more glue around the sides and everything to make it more secured. So I'm going to wrap these wires around the side. Like this, and through the hole. Well, first I gotta take the old battery out. So I still had it in there because I was doing some testing. What I did is I actually did some testing with it to see how long it would record on the remaining amount of charge, and it wasn't all that impressive. Because the battery is only 720 milliamp hours, and that's when it was brand new. It's probably fallen to a lower capacity since then. And also, out of curiosity, let's see what the resting voltage is of the battery right now. The thing about DXG cameras that run on lithium-ion batteries, I've noticed with the 5B6V, the A85V, and probably this one as well, that they don't exactly make full utilization of what the battery can offer. So our resting voltage right now is 3.6. So it's not as bad as I thought. And that's after the battery has been off. The battery hasn't had a load on it for a little bit. So it's had a chance to sort of restabilize, but yeah, 3.6 exact. Yeah, I think a lot of times some camera manufacturers do that to get increased lifetime out of the battery. In other words, you get more cycles out because you're not actually fully discharging it. You're not getting the full amount of capacity out of it. But I would rather the thing actually, I'd rather each charge get the full amount of capacity out of the cell. In my opinion. Okay, so I've run the wires around and through. So now I can conveniently set this thing on its side just like that. And it should be pretty easy to work with. So first I'm going to work with the, actually first I'm going to put some glue in here to stop these wires from moving around so much. Slide it in and out of the hole. So put a dab of glue right there to secure things. And once it's all said and done, I'll add some more glue to completely cover the wires. Try to keep them more secure. So I gotta think for a moment how I'm going to route these wires. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a negative around through here and hook up to the negative terminal on the camera, and the positive I'm going to be sticking the fuse in this area. We'll see. Thing is, I want to figure out how I'm going to locate the fuse in this thing. Where I'm going to place it, more or less. It would be nice if the negative was over here and the positive was over here. That would be cool, but it's not. So we have to work around it. What I could do is I could secure this fuse with some hot glue along the side And I could perhaps bridge between this terminal of the fuse to the terminal of the camera, and I can hook up the positive over here. I might try that. I think I will try that, rather. So I gotta glue this thing in to keep the terminals of the fuse up and off the plastic, so that way I don't melt the plastic when I go to solder in the wires. Try to keep that one terminal of the fuse as close as possible to the terminal of the camera. I don't know. Now, also I'm thinking that, if possible, I'm going to try to set this up to where I can put the little factory door back in its original spot. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. Well, it's not exactly as secure as I was wanting, but we'll have to make do with it. So the negative wires will come in and connect with the negative terminal of the camera. So I'm going to shorten this wire to a more appropriate size. One thing I'm curious of is the health of the timekeeping cell on this camera. If it's able to keep track of date, time, and settings real well. Now I know the camera, when it arrived to me, the battery was fully charged, but it clearly was not in its default configuration. The video resolution was set down to WVGA, and the beep was turned off. The annoying startup music and beep was turned off and stuff like that. But the date and time was not set. It was showing 2007 for the date and time, so clearly that was not set. Now I'm going to go ahead and try to bridge across this terminal of the fuse to the terminal of the camera. That seems to have done it. It is in fact bridged across now. So now I'll go ahead and apply some solder to the negative terminal of the camera. Yeah, that seems to have worked out pretty well there. It's hooked right up to the positive just fine. Yeah, these blade fuses are pretty easy to solder to because they had the flat blades other than the glass tube fuses. There should be plenty of solder. Go ahead and shorten down this positive wire and get it taken care of. I'm going to apply some solder to the other blade of the fuse. Use the famous needle nose pliers to maneuver that wire into place. And sorry if my hands are going to be in the way, but you know, soldering I don't play around. Okay, that's on there. So the positive's taken care of. Now let's hook up the negative to the camera. Okay. Here we go. So I'm going to pop in a cell to test for proper operation. All we need is just one cell. And we'll try to start the device. And it starts right up. So, there we are. It works. So that means now that we can go ahead and finish up with the cosmetics and stuff. So I'm curious to see if I can still fit the original door on here. Might be a little tougher because of some of this glue in here, but try to get that smushed out of the way. Before I close this thing up, I'm going to go ahead and apply some additional glue around the fuse to make sure it stays in place. Of course, it's being held in place by the positive terminal of the camera, but still, I'd rather have a little more than just that to hold it in. If anybody is curious why I'm not making it to where the fuse could easily be replaced, it's because if that fuse blows, more likely there's a serious fault with the camera, to the point where the camera would be destroyed and no longer repairable. In that case, that's why, you know, it's no big deal. The fuse is a one-shot device. Typically, it would only operate in an event of an actual major failure. Now, it looks like this door, well, the door's in there. Just right here where this fuse is at, it's just a little bit higher than usual, but theoretically it should not need to go back in there for anything, but just in case, it can be opened. Okay, so now I'll go ahead and close up the screen, and let's go ahead and wrap this up. Make sure this 18650 battery holder is in there good. Because although the black hot glue is more durable in hot conditions, it does, I mean, it will weaken a little bit. It'll get softer. So I'll make sure it's on there good. I'm also going to take the opportunity to go ahead and cover up the terminals. Yeah, these things are put together pretty cheap. Okay, there we are. So this thing has officially been 18650 modded. And what's nice about the way I've done this camera is it can operate as a camera for WeatherCase number 2, or it can operate on its own like it is right now, with the single microphone that's stuck in the top of it. And always with these parallel battery packs, I make sure that I have both cells facing the same direction. Of course, all my battery packs are this way, so it's not like some are and some aren't. But the only downside to having battery boxes that are in parallel is you gotta be careful with them. Because if you insert one cell this way and one cell that way, you essentially have a 7.4 volt battery that's dead shorted against itself. Also make sure that both batteries are inserted in the correct direction. Of course, I don't have an SD card inserted, so it's going to whine about that. This one does not have. This camera does not have internal memory for storing photos or video, which is not a bad thing. Usually, they would only give you like 128 megabytes, which is barely enough for much of anything. Let's see the date and time. It has remembered the date and time. Yeah, perfectly. It's remembered the date and time, and it's been off the battery for a little while. Now, these timekeeping cells theoretically should be able to keep date and time for at least maybe a couple of days, if not more. But it's certainly better than a device where, like that Sanyo Exacti CG102, where if you pop the battery loose for 1 second, it'll lose track of date, time, and all your presets and all that mess. So yeah, really nice. So this camera has been officially modified. It looks a bit different now than it did before, I must say. So probably tomorrow I'll be doing some test runs with it. Just be filming the clouds and stuff like that. Of course, I could throw it into the WeatherCase number 2. I got to do some adjustments to WeatherCase number 2 in order to fit this thing. Really, all I got to do is just drill a new hole in the bottom for mounting the camera inside, because the crappy Ativa camera, it mounted way back here, whereas on this one it's right in the center where it should be. And also, I gotta figure out whether I'm going to stick the microphone on the cover that pops off, or if I'm going to stick it actually in the case somewhere. Haven't quite decided on that yet either. I'm going to probably stick it in the door, in the cover. I'll figure something out there. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Well guys, that's it for this one. But it doesn't have to be. There's plenty more videos on the channel to check out. Also, if you liked the video, please click the like button. And if you absolutely hated it, there is the alternative button as well. But yeah, please subscribe to the channel. I definitely appreciate it. And remember to click the bell so that we get notified of all updates. Also, if you're interested in things aside from computers and technology, check out my second channel. It's cubecompmtdx. Over there you'll find videos about weather, elevators, bicycling, and pretty much whatever else I figure out to upload. So yeah, anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and thank you for your support.